Hey guys, Joe here, and today I'm showing you guys my finished Traxxas Summit build. I have a build series playlist for this truck that I'll post a link to in the description, as well as a link to the build thread I have in the Traxxas forums. This Summit started out as a roller, and most of the parts were purchased over a period of 5 months. I have a total of over 40 upgrades, and all of those upgrades are focused towards performance and durability. I tried to use little aluminum only in places where it was necessary. Then later on, I also started doing some customization to enhance its scale appearance and overall look. So let me know what you guys think in the description. Alright guys, here are all the bodies I have for my Traxxas Summit. The first one you see here is my painted Red Bull body. I used Tamiya Dark Metallic Blue and Tamiya Silver. And then the last coat I used was black, just so it has a finished look when you look through the windows. The Red Bull logos are decals from MCI Racing. They're intended for a short course body, and they seem to be the perfect size. Here you guys can see a Gearhead RC 4.19-inch light bar. It's actually waterproof, and it operates at a maximum of 6 volts, so you can just plug it in directly to your receiver. To mount this, I had to do some dremeling to this cross brace here. But the way I have it set up, you can just loosen these 4 screws and throw it onto any of the other bodies you guys see here. Next up is my GoPro body. I did do a little mod to this body to use a GoPro mount. I cut a hole in the top of it, and then I mounted a GoPro display stand underneath. The way I have it mounted, the GoPro footage is very stable. If you guys want to check out that footage, I have it on some of my other videos. On this body, I also have the Traxxas light bar. That's pretty bright too, but not nearly as bright as the Gearhead light bar. This third body you guys see over here is an old discontinued Traxxas yellow body. Yellow is probably one of my favorite colors for the Summit, and I got this body off of eBay. So let me know what you guys think. Okay guys, now I'm going to talk about tires. I have 3 sets of tires for my Summit: Proline Trenchers, Proline Rock Rages, and Proline Moab, so all Proline tires. The Proline Trenchers are probably my favorite all-around tire. They're great for bashing, they don't bloom that much, and they're pretty stable. They're also great for trailing because they're plenty soft, and the tread life is great on these. I have these mounted to Axial narrow beadlocks. These are very rare and discontinued, and I did pay quite a bit of money for these. This, out of all my tires, is my heaviest combination. Next up, the Proline Rock Rages, which is my lightest tire and wheel combination. These are the pre-mounted version on the Proline F11 wheels. This is a great tire for bashing. They don't bloom that much. They hook up well in just about everything, and they're even great for trailing. And this is another tire I'd recommend. This last tire here, Proline Moabs. These are also mounted on the rare and discontinued Axial narrow Rocksters. If you guys want a set of these, you'll have to do some looking, and you'll have to be willing to pay some cash. These, out of all 3 tires, are the tallest tires. These are also the softest. As you guys can see, these things are very soft, and they'll grip on just about anything. These would be my most recommended tire for trailing or crawling. And one thing I wouldn't recommend these for is for bashing, because I've only used them once in high gear, and these things balloon like crazy, so I definitely wouldn't recommend them for that. Alright, so the next thing I want to talk about is electronics. As you guys can see here, I'm running the Mamba Monster X system. This is a great ESC, waterproof. If you want to, you can run a censored motor with it. And I usually run 4S with this, and this thing just absolutely rips. It's also probably the smoothest sensorless ESC if you want to use it with a censored motor. You can really go slow with this thing if you want to, and it's great for the Summit. I am also running the Castle 1515 2200 kV motor. Once again, perfect for the Summit. Temps are really low. I definitely recommend it. As for batteries, I'm running SPC 2S 70C 7200 milliamp batteries. These LiPo batteries are awesome. They fit the Summit battery tray perfectly, and you get plenty of runtime. I found that I get around 45 minutes to an hour. 45 minutes is usually when I'm bashing, and I can probably push 2 hours if I'm in low gear trailing. Next up for servos is I have Dole Savox 1211 waterproof servos. If you wanted more torque, you could go with the 1210s. but the 1211s have a lot of speed, which I definitely like. Combined, they have over 400 ounces of torque, and that's a lot more than the stock. Stock combined, you're looking around, I believe it's 250 ounces of torque. These are metal geared, and I'm also using Axial servo horns in these. Moving on, I am using the Castle 10 amp BEC to power my servos. The 3 micro servos as well as the LEDs are all powered by the ESC. BEC just ensures that your servos are running as good as possible. They're getting the proper amount of voltage, and it keeps your ESC from browning out and keeps the stress off of it. And last thing for electronics is, I already mentioned this earlier, but I have the light bars on my bodies. I have the Gearhead light bar on my Red Bull body and the Traxxas light bar on my GoPro body. Alright guys, so now I'm going to talk about upgrades. This is a really long list I have, so bear with me. So throughout the kit, I use Tony screws and a mixture of a little bit of hex head screws in there. Both are great screw kits. If you guys want to see a review and comparing and contrasting both of them, I do have a video of that on my channel. And I also used Boca bearings throughout the build. Boca bearings are great bearings, and if you guys are going to be running in wet conditions, you know, snow, mud, water, Boca bearings are probably the best bearing you can get for that. Alright guys, starting in the front, we have an RPM bumper mount. I do have a lot of customizations done to this front bumper, but I'll go over those a little bit later. I also have a Lunsford titanium hinge pin set. Titanium just ensures, you know, no corrosion. It's also a lot lighter than steel. I also have the Traxxas aluminum push rods and toe links. Once again, lighter and no corrosion. I also have the RPM arms in the front. These are a little bit more flexible than the stock, but this is actually a good thing because under impact these will flex where the stock arms will just snap or break. I also have the LEM V4 axle set. I do believe that these are the lightest aftermarket axles, and they are also very strong. These just came out recently, and I love the way they look in the Summit. I also have the RD Racing aluminum carriers. These carriers are discontinued, unfortunately. I found mine on eBay, and I would definitely recommend them. They basically have no slop. That's one of the main reasons I got them. They actually only weigh a gram more than the stock carriers. I also have the Lunsford titanium pivot balls inside of the carriers. Once again, titanium, no corrosion, and they're lightweight. And to make sure the pivot ball stays seated and doesn't back off, I have Integy pivot ball caps. Now usually when I hear Integy I cringe, but they're the only company that makes a pivot ball cap with an O-ring so it doesn't loosen and back out, which is a great feature. Also, to get rid of slop, I have the HPP hex hubs, and these have a secure lock nut that keeps it seated to the axle so it doesn't have any play or wobble. And overall, these are great hex hubs. I definitely recommend them. The wheel nut they come with is also serrated, so it ensures that the wheel stays on and doesn't come off. Also, to get rid of slop in the suspension, I have RD Racing aluminum shock ends. The stock shock ends ended up stretching out, and there's a ton of play in them. However, even after upgrading to the aluminum shock ends, I noticed some play was created in the shock cap, so I guess you can't win there. And last but not least, I have the LEM diff cup and hardened gear set. I definitely recommend this combo from LEM, as it's better for high torque, high speed applications, and it really completely bulletproofs the drivetrain, this thing. And these cups are also guaranteed, so if you break one, they'll replace it for free. Moving on to the center of the chassis, I have the RD Racing Products aluminum servo saver mount. You guys can't see that though because it's underneath the chassis. Like I mentioned before, I'm also running Axial aluminum servo horns. These servo horns are great because they use a clamping feature, and that just secures everything to the spline and the servo. I'm also running the Traxxas steel constant velocity center drive shafts. I wasn't sure if I should get these or the hot racing ones, but so far the Traxxas shafts are been holding up great. They're pretty cheap. I think I paid around 20 bucks for them. They've been just awesome. I'm also using the LEM aluminum dog carrier that's inside the transmission. This makes shifting a lot quicker in the transmission, and it also gets rid of a ton of slop in the transmission. And you guys can notice that how quick it locks up, where the stock Summit would roll a long time until it locks up in the transmission. I'm also running the Hot Racing double up slipper system, and with this slipper system I'm using a Traxxas T-Max brake disc. And so far this setup has been working up great for me. The stock slipper pad, they didn't last long at all for me, especially with the brushless system. And I definitely think that one of the first upgrades should be a better slipper setup. And also for the slipper, I'm running a Kershaw heavy duty slipper spring that uses a thrust bearing. Also, you guys can see here, my BEC from Castle is enclosed in an LEM waterproof case. And if you guys are going to be running in any wet conditions, you definitely need something like this, or you at least need to waterproof your BEC. Right back here, here's another discontinued product I have in my Summit, my TVR Torex brace. Traxxas also does sell a chassis brace, but I just like the TVR brace because it looks like a turnbuckle, it's low profile, and it's really great, high quality. Moving on, I also have the T-Bone Racing chassis skid. Once again, you guys can't see that because it's underneath the Summit. But I definitely recommend this skid, especially if you're going to go for rocks and stuff. It's a great skid to have, and it protects the underneath of your chassis. Alright guys, now moving on to the rear. The rear is pretty much identical to the front, so I'm going to move through this list quickly. Once again, the RPM rear bumper mount, the Lunsford titanium hinge pins, Traxxas aluminum push rods and toe links, the RPM A-arms, LEM V4 axles, the RD Racing aluminum carriers, the Lunsford titanium pivot balls, Integy aluminum pivot ball caps, the HPP hex hubs. Now here's something that's different from the front. I'm running Traxxas double orange springs in the rear. The stock springs are completely terrible in the Summit. Under acceleration there's a ton of sag. I found with these double orange springs, it reduces a lot of that and just overall makes the Summit handle better. Just like the front, I'm also using the RD Racing aluminum shock ends and the LEM combo diff cup with the hardened sputter gears. Okay guys, so now I'm going to talk about modifications I did to the Summit. I did do quite a few. The front bumper, I removed the chrome using Easy Off Oven Cleaner. That worked great for that. And I also cut out the existing light buckets and custom mounted the Axial light buckets. As you guys can see, I used whiteout to paint the PIA logo. I also drilled holes in these shackle mounts right here, and I mounted some shackles I got off eBay. Originally I did have RC 4-wheel drive King Kong toe shackles, but I found these red shackles on eBay that are pretty much the exact same size. I also made my own yellow lenses for the front bumper to make fog lights. I think the fog lights are a great addition to the Summit, and I think it looks awesome. I also dyed the rubber boots and the carriers for the dust boots and the axle boots black. It was kind of a lengthy process, but I definitely think it was worth it. And the blue just wasn't cutting it for me, and the blue kind of made it look toyish, if you will. I just like the sleeper look of the black, and I overall think it looks a lot better. I definitely keep the axle boots on because it keeps crap from loading up on the axles and the pivot balls. This is another thing you guys won't be able to see, but I filled the inside of the bulkhead with hot glue to keep the diff case from moving around. As you guys can see, when I wiggle this outdrive here, there really isn't any movement in there anymore. Before there used to be a ton of slop there, and filling that with hot glue will completely get rid of that play. Alright, so I turned the Summit around to show you guys this mod. This is probably my favorite mod that I did. I extended the receiver box here by cutting two top halves and gluing them together. And the reason I did this is because with all the wires I had and everything, there wasn't nearly enough room to put everything inside the receiver box. So I ended up making this one right here, which is a lot taller to accommodate all the wires I had inside of it. Another thing I did to this Summit is I cut out some of the fins in this battery vent right here. Instead of using this little hole right here for the battery wires, which is too small for the 10 gauge wiring on my SPC batteries, I removed some of the fins right here in these battery vents so I can route the wires through there, and overall I think it's a lot better place to route your battery wires. Alright guys, I turned the Summit back around to show you guys this last mod. Using an RPM bulkhead from a /2 wheel drive, I made my own ESC/BEC mount. And with this mount, I can just loosen 2 screws, and this whole unit with this ESC and BEC completely lifts off, so I don't have to depend on removing double-sided tape every time I want to access something. Alright guys, so I'm just going to power this thing up real quick just to show you guys everything working. So I'll go ahead and turn my radio on. I'm using a Futaba 4PL, and just to let you guys know, to get this work with the Summit, I did have to use the Traxxas differential lock controller. So go ahead and flip the switch here. So there's the steering. As you guys can see, the servos are really fast in this. One thing you guys might want to do for steering is tighten up the servo saver spring, but I haven't really had an issue with it. That's all the throttle I'm going to give it, because with these tires I don't want them ballooning off the bead lock ring. So I'll go ahead and shift into low gear. Shift back into high. Then I also have the differential lockers, so as you guys can see right now they're unlocked. I'll flip this switch right here. Now I have the front locked, rear is still unlocked. And then I'll flip it one more time, and now the rear and the front differentials are both locked. And then back to the original position, and both the front and rear are unlocked. Okay guys, so that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching this video, and please rate, comment, or subscribe.